Hello and welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today we're going to be doing a bit of a portrait comparison between the 70-200 2.8S and the 85mm 1.8S for the Z mount series cameras. So Nikon's flagship telephoto at the moment is the 70-200 2.8S. It has now been around for a while, which is good, and has provided us with many enjoyable shooting opportunities. The 85mm 1.8S has been around even longer, in fact since September-October time of 2019. But I was wondering, if you were to compare these two at 85mm, which is the more enjoyable portrait lens? Now, I know initially this might seem unfair. On the one hand, we have a dedicated portrait lens, realistically, of the 85mm, and then with the 70-200, we have a multifunctional, standard telephoto zoom. But I don't think it's as clear-cut as that. Now, let's just start off by looking at the price. The 70-200 2.8S costs the best part of £2,500, whereas the 85mm 1.8S costs around £800, though you can get it for around £700. So that price difference already shows me that there's clearly something going on here, because the Pro level 85 1.4G was significantly more expensive than the 85 1.8S, but I do think we're getting similar kind of performance. So which is better? Well, if you've watched my 85mm 1.8S standalone review, you will probably have seen a lot of these photos already, but what I also have is a duplicate set of photos, well, not quite duplicates, but similar set of photos, which I took with the 70-200 2.8S at the same time. The idea is that we can compare and contrast and have a look at which we prefer. Now, I'm going to talk over the images as they come up. I'm not going to address them all individually because I quite frankly want you to make your own mind up as to which is better. Now, for what it's worth, they were shot with the Nikon Z7 II, so I've pretty much given these lenses the best sensor that Nikon currently offers to hopefully help you decide which perhaps you want to buy, or whether you want to pick up the 85mm separately in addition to the 70-200. So my initial and ongoing thoughts are as follows. The 70-200 looks really good. I think that the level of sharpness, the level of distortion, the contrast, the colours are really, really close to the 85mm. Honestly, I think it's hard to tell them apart. Where I do, however, think there is some difference is when we stop down to 2.8, I do think that the 1.8 lens, so the 85mm, does have an edge. There's not much in it, there really isn't, but I think that for me, the images coming from the 85mm lens were more pleasing. Now, I felt that once we started getting to f4, f5.6, that lead really quickly deteriorated. And by the time we get to f8, I honestly cannot see the difference between the 70-200 and the 85mm. I think that's a good thing, because I think that shows us the kind of quality we're getting from the 70-200, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be really frustrated and go, you can't compare a prime and a zoom lens, they're two very different things, etc, etc. And I don't deny this, I don't think these people are wrong, but I just think when you get to a point where we're starting to really push the boundaries of what's possible in modern lenses, and I'd actually like to take Canon as an example of what they're doing. I mean, look at the 28-70 f2. I really look forward to trying that out pretty soon. There's some really interesting things going on. I think Nikon has taken a different approach, but in doing so has produced some phenomenal glass for the Z system. And I think it says a lot that a 70-200 zoom can keep up with an 85mm, telephoto prime. Maybe the colours are occasionally slightly more pleasing from the 85mm 1.8S, and that's interesting in itself, but it's nothing that you can't change in post-production. I think that if I think about the photographs straight out of the camera and what they look like, I'm of the opinion that you can probably do less editing to the 85mm photos. Maybe I'd tweak them a little more from the 70-200, but I'd still end up with the same result. Of course, there is an elephant in the room, and that is the fact that they're not the same maximum apertures. The 70-200 obviously is a 2.8, and the 85mm currently is a 1.8, though I expect that this year we're going to see the 85 1.2 at some point from Nikon as well. Now, in terms of that, obviously the 1.8 blows the 70-200 out of the water on the basis of being able to blow the background out even more to give you even more beautiful depth and bokeh. And actually bokeh balls on both of them I think are really similar again. They look good on both lenses and I'd be happy with either, though maybe there's a slight edge there for the 85mm as well. In terms of use, obviously you have a big difference in weight. If you have a Z7 II and you're not attaching a battery grip and you put the 85mm on it, that is a light, small package. It's something that is easy to carry around and you'd probably be quite happy with. The 70-200 on the other hand is a very different lens. It's very heavy, very large, very long, very obvious as well. So if you're shooting out and about and you don't sort of have a set location, you're going to draw more attention, I think, with the 70-200 than you would the 85. So again, there you can have a benefit too. I mean, the 85mm lens only weighs the best part, I think it's about 500 grams or so. That's not much. So that's something you definitely want to bear in mind. One thing that is interesting, and I had to remind myself of that, is the minimum focus distance is very similar on both of them. So the 85mm is about 0.8 meters and the 70-200, I know it says on it is 0.5 meters, but I think actually it's slightly longer once you've zoomed into 85mm. But overall, you're still going to be able to get really nice and close to your subject. So I don't think that would be an issue for either lens either. Just to cover off something slightly irrelevant, but in terms of accessories, you're getting very similar. You're getting a lens hood for the 85mm, you're getting a lens hood for the 70-200, your standard lens caps, front and back, and you also get the useless cloth carry cases for both of them that I would ignore and I would replace with something more suitable, such as the donkey wraps, which I have also reviewed, and you can find a link to that above at the moment. So yeah, it's an interesting overview. I hope the photos have helped you decide which you like more. I mean, comment below. I'd love to know which you prefer. I really don't think there's a huge amount in it, if I'm completely honest. I'd also love to see your examples. So if you've shot any photos and you have an online gallery or something, put some links below, and I'm sure we'd all like to see and have a look and see what other people have been doing as well. I'd lastly just like to point out that this isn't my 85mm lens. I actually rented it. I did pay for the rental. I do own the 70-200, but the 85, I just don't shoot portraits enough, to be honest with you. I do from time to time, but it's not something I do massively regularly, so I decided not to purchase that. And I honestly will continue using the 70-200. If anything, this test proved to me that the 70-200 is as good as I have said it is, and I expected it was, and I will happily continue to use that in place of an 85mm. Also, I find with portraits personally, when I shoot them, I do prefer to compress the background a bit more, so I tend to stand a bit further back, shoot at 135mm, sometimes even above that, and get quite nice pleasing portraits at 2.8 there. So that's something to bear in mind. You do have more flexibility with the 70-200. Anyhow, I hope you found this little short comparison useful. If you have any questions, as I said, pop them in the comment section. Love to know which you liked more. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. The other button worked absolutely fine too. And if you haven't already, I implore you to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and it really helps me out. And yeah, so please do if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye.